Welcome to the Social Purpose Exchange. I'm Sean Mallon. Here's a proposition that's turning the business world on its head. An obsession with delivering profit to shareholders above all other considerations isn't necessarily such a great business model anymore. Customers, communities, employees, and even some shareholders are now demanding that corporations do better, that they make a real and meaningful contribution to improving society. That's social purpose. And the Social Purpose Exchange is a forum for what we hope will be provocative, enlightening conversations about this concept that is revolutionizing the business world. My guest for this episode is the CEO and founder of Paramount Foods, Mohamad Fakih. He is a business person who lives the concept of social purpose and has been doing so for decades. Most recently, he led the Canada Strong fundraising campaign to assist the families of Canadians killed in the air disaster in Iran. But he's also been active in helping the homeless, working with refugees, and is an ambassador for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and has received many honors for his public service. Mohamad Fakih, thank you so much for joining us on this program.
Thank you very much for having me.
You've got a fascinating immigrant story. You grew up in Lebanon, came here, studied gemology of all things in Italy, and then came to Canada in 1999. I'd like to talk a little bit about your upbringing in Lebanon and how it influenced the way you do business. Your father was in construction. Tell me about what it was like growing up in Beirut.
Well, I grew up during the war of Lebanon, but at the same time, what I was always surprised about that my dad was in construction, but during the war that we used to repair and reconstruct things that they were damaged by the war daily. They were never waiting for the war to calm down for them to go back to work and fix things, expecting, it's not worth it to fix it, because they had so much hope and they were still doing business, selling apartments, selling condos and houses. So it was very inspiring to see how the persistence of being successful and continue to make a living despite the fact that there was a harsh war. But most importantly, I grew up in a house where we had a shoebox at the door. And my mom used to give us $5, but she used to ask us to put 20 cents every day in that shoebox. And that shoebox said sadaqah on it, which is voluntarily giving. Voluntarily giving. So basically what she was teaching us and training us to do is believing that you'll only be safe if you leave the house after you have helped someone else. And you will only be blessed and protected if you were to help someone else. So I grew up since I was a kid, and until now that box is there, maybe not the same box because it got old, but basically believing that giving is the way to make more money. Giving is the way that your life will become better, happier, and more blessed. And that's how I grew up, and that's what I teach my children today.
So the money in that little box, where did the money go? It went to a charity of some sort?
Yeah, so every Friday or Sunday, we used to go to a mosque, to a charity, or to a church, and we used actually to buy bread and salt or oil or a box of different type of food that a family would need, and as many boxes as that money would have bought, and we used to give them to different charities, mosques, churches, and my mom always made sure that she always taught us that you need to give people, it doesn't matter where they're from, it doesn't matter from their background, because within our house, we had people that worked in the house, people that worked in our company, my dad's company, that were from Syria, from neighboring country. So we were used to interact and be part of our life and be part of other people's life that were not Lebanese, were not Muslim, were not. So I learned the fact of being a human is the most important thing that we all share together, and treating everyone as a human, equal to all of us, that we are very alike, all of us, despite the fact of a color of a skin, of a religion, from my parents at home.
And I want to get into that more a bit later, but I want you to speak a little bit about your experience coming to Canada. You came in 1999. Why did you come? And tell me a bit about how you made your way in your early days in Canada.
Well, I came to Canada because I kept hearing that Canada is welcoming to newcomers. And Canada is such an accepting place, and the Canadians are great people. And now I definitely can confirm that, right? I love this country and I love its people. And they made me feel like more a citizen than a newcomer from the beginning. And I came here and I was very excited about coming. I wanted to start a new life, better life, a place where I can plan something for a long time, because in Lebanon you didn't know what's happening the second day due to the war. And so I started here from scratch. I landed with a $1,200 in my pocket, right in Pearson Airport in Mississauga, and I lived in a shared basement apartment. I was sharing a basement apartment with 3 other people. Then it became 2, then 1, and then I was left alone. And to pay rent, I had to actually teach the landlord's daughter French, because I didn't have the money to pay rent. So I had to actually do something with my time for her to be able to be in the basement.
And you weren't able to use your trade as a gemologist initially, were you?
No, I wasn't.
How did you put food on the table?
Yeah, so because people were telling me that I didn't have Canadian experience at the time, which is until today, I do everything I can to make that opportunity available for people who arrived to Canada, new here, to get a fair opportunity. So I had to work at a coffee shop and had to do it night shift, because I went to a jewelry store and I convinced them to give me a job for free. And I used to call it volunteering to make me feel better. But I worked for free at a jewelry store during the day, and I took a night shift job pouring coffee in a coffee time on Danforth. And that was my way to make money and put food on my table.
And to get Canadian experience without getting paid for it.
Definitely, and getting to know Canada and Canadian and the customs. And yes, without being paid for, until another jewelry store at the Eaton Center saw my worth and gave me a paying job. And I moved to that company and started getting paid for my work. So I didn't have to work for coffee time anymore at the time. I worked as well for Tim Hortons for 5 days, but it didn't work with the scheduling. And one day a lovely lady walked in, and she owned 2 jewelry stores. She wanted to buy a Rolex watch from me, so I suggested her on a cheaper watch. She loved the honesty that I didn't look after more than my commission. Even at that time, the commission of that watch would have bought me my first car in Canada, but I still wanted to suggest her the right option for her life, and because it was a big purchase. So she came back and offered me a job in her small jewelry company. She owned 2 small locations. So I said, look, your company is too small. Why don't you give me a share in the business and hourly base salary, like per hourly pay, and so I'll own something, because otherwise I'll break your company with my salary. And she said no in the beginning. She came back after a couple of weeks with her husband, took me for dinner, and they agreed. And together we grew her company to 5 locations. And when she wanted to leave the business due to health reasons, she helped me to buy 2 of those 5 locations, and she waited for her money.
And I think you told me in the early part of this deal with this woman, you were taking a lower salary, and you went back to pouring coffee at night.
Yes, I did. I had to, because I was getting minimum wage to be able to get a piece of the business, a share in the business, a sweat equity. So she was paying me the minimum wage per hour, and that wasn't enough, because my life, I had a little bit more expenses, so I had to go back to work some night shifts at the coffee shop. But I had to do that because I really wanted to build something on my own, and I wanted to do why I came here. I came here for a better life, and Canadian has given me that opportunity.
So you got a share of the company through sweat equity, through your work. You traded your work for a share of the company.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so then you became getting some success in business.
Yeah, I owned those 2 jewelry stores.
And then you walked in. Tell me the story about how you got into the restaurant trade then.
So one day my wife called me, and she said that we had some guests, friends coming over for dinner, and she wanted me to buy baklava. So I said, great, no problem. So she pointed me to this place called Paramount in Mississauga. So I started driving on Dixie, was behind a police station. It's more really a place to have a dealership or a car repair shop more than a restaurant or a dessert place. So I walked in, and there was nothing Paramount about the place. Like the paint was orange, and the handle on the door was off. So I went and I ordered a kilo baklava, and the owner started a conversation with me and said that he saw something about me building a house. I was helping someone to build a house, that's another story. And would I lend him $250,000? And I'm like, I don't know you. Why would I lend you $250,000?
You're just buying baklava from the guy.
I just wanted $20 baklava, yes. And I said to him, no, I can't do that. I don't know you. But that's my card. Those situations where you feel yourself like someone put you in a situation you do not want to be not polite and say no, and at the same time you just really don't want to deal with it because you don't have enough information about it. I handed him my card and I left, took my kilo baklava with me, and I got to the car, but while I'm talking to him, he said one thing that resonated a lot, and it stayed here, you know, when there's something is scaring you in your heart that something bad is gonna happen. He said, if you don't, we're gonna bankrupt by Thursday, and 15 of my team members and myself will have to go back home because our visa is depending on the business. And that stayed here. So I sat in the car and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, wasn't that me? Like, wasn't that the lovely Italian lady that helped me build my life and gave me sweat equity in her business, believed in me? And this man needed the same help. And this is the moment that hit me, that I needed to decide what kind of human being I want to be. Am I going to be a stand-up person? I'm going to be somebody who forgot what Canadian did to him? Or someone who's going to help and give back? And this is when I decided to call him back. And I said, why don't you come to my office and let's talk about it? And he did.
And you ended up buying into it. And to be clear, though, you were not a wealthy man. This was a big investment for you.
It was all my money.
And what did you know about the restaurant business?
I didn't know how to fry an egg, and I'm not sure I know now, but I know maybe how, I don't know how to do it. But what I knew is bringing people together, and people that come here and they're so hungry to make it successfully and to make their life better. If you align them and make them buy into something, that it's good for everyone else, for them, for their family, there is no way that you will fail. We knew that there is possibility of failure for sure, but they had no other option. And I put myself into the same boat with them. And I felt that oneness, that they don't have any other option. Why don't I try to help them? And another thing, Middle Eastern food was treated unfairly at the time. Middle Eastern community in general had a big misconception about them. It used a lot of wars and a lot of wrong information through media or through other things that we see these days, social media and everything. So I thought, and I still believe it, breaking bread together, it could be today our solution for all our problems in the world. Because if people were to break more bread and more often together, and share a meal and get to know each other, we'll find out that we're much more alike than we are different. And I still believe it. So I thought it's a great message through the restaurant and through helping those families. And if we can turn it around to even make it break even, but bring a real bit more better Middle Eastern culture to the whole story and present Canadian with a better experience, it'll be great for everybody.
So you took this restaurant that was about a couple days away from going bankrupt, in, I guess, not a very good location.
No.
You didn't know anything about the restaurant trade.
No.
This was in 2006?
Yes.
And now it's 2020. Paramount Foods has 80?
Yeah, 80 locations worldwide.
So tell me what was the secret sauce? What was your method for turning this around?
People. I always say, a lot of people come to me and want to have a conversation, want to give me business advice, even when I don't ask them. They just come to me and start a conversation, which is, I love that. And they say, Mohamad, customer comes first. Mohamad, always remember that customers come first. I actually disagree. Customers do not come first to the CEOs. To CEOs, your people come first. And when you put your people first, your people will look after the customer. And then eventually the customer will be treated right and the best way possible. Customer has a great way of detecting if your team is happy and they work for someone deserves supporting. We are in a world that the profit and the bottom line of companies has changed. It used to be money and dollar and cents. And today, to get the money, dollar and cents, you need to have three things. You need to have a company with purpose, a company that looks after people, a company that looks after the planet, and the profit will follow. And without that today, I don't think there's any company that could be sustaining a profit or a system. And I think buying in for the consumer, the community bought into Paramount. The employees, the executives supported Paramount. The consultant wanted to support Paramount because they wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And the something that bigger than ourselves is the community. Paramount always stood for helping the community.
So But in those early days, in a practical sense, what did you do? How did you improve its outlook and make it more of a success with starting with this one?
Cheap small decors for people to feel like there is something that changed. Get the team to buy in and to love what they're doing. Making them feel safe. Making them feel that they're the most important aspect of the business. And telling the people on the table that their causes are ours and their suffering is ours. And I started donating when I didn't have the money. And I'll never forget, on a Friday night, a church came to me and they couldn't make a bill for heat. And they were about to shut down for the Sunday service. And they wanted the money that I didn't have. And I gave them that money from my sales. And that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday was a long weekend, was the only time I woke up in my own life on a Tuesday with over $100,000 sales. You want to talk about something that KPMG and Deloitte will never believe when I say that more you give, more you make? Well, I can prove it on numbers and bank statement, that every time we gave, we made.
So how did that work out? I mean, why did that formula work? Did people hear about this and decide we want to eat at Paramount? I mean, I guess I've never eaten at Paramount, but I'm guessing your food is pretty good.
Well, the food is for sure good. It's made with love. It's made with people that do not deliver food on the table only. We deliver food with love. Our formula is easy. I'll only feed you a meal that I would feed my own children. And everyone in the company follow that formula. That's number one. But people do not only need to hear about it through the media. When you support a church or a mosque or a community center, it doesn't have to be always religious or to some certain ethnic background. But when you support a group of people and then a community and then a bigger community, people would want to support you. And when they support you, your business will strive. And then you support back and we all win.
So word got around about Paramount.
Absolutely.
So more people started to come in.
Absolutely. Hearing that we did this and we did that and the food is great. At the same time, these people are not here only to profit. They invest in the community. They invest in our children playing hockey. They invest in their people. Your staff are your best marketing campaign. When the parents of your youngest staff see that you're mentoring their children, they want to support your business and they'll become the word of mouth marketing that is the best marketing until today.
Among the many things you've done is you stepped up to pay for the funerals of the people killed in the Quebec City Mosque shooting. You made a point of hiring Syrian refugees in your restaurants. You've actually traveled to the region
yes.
to see about the refugee situation. I guess that's how you became an ambassador for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, among the many other initiatives you've done. Does every corporate leader need to be quite so active? I mean, what is your advice to other people who run businesses about how to learn from your lesson, from your experience?
I think I have a lot to learn as well myself, like all of us, but I think CEOs need to get involved more than cutting a check. I mean, we turned 10 years ago from not hearing about purpose. Doing purposeful thing is not only the right thing, is the profitable thing to do. And now we're hearing more people talking about it, but we're still divided on people who are only talking about it and not doing it. And then there is people that think cutting a check will do it. Your team will only want to work for a company. Let's assume I'm paying $100,000 to an executive. The other company will pay the same $100,000. Why would the team member or the talents that we're all short of want to stay at Paramount? Because they want to be part of something, one more time, bigger than ourselves. And they want to go home and tell a story to their children that they're part of something that it's for the betterment of all, not only for us. And that's very important. So CEOs need to really be more hands-on, lead their team to do things that they're purposeful, and not only talk about it and cut a check. That's great, we need people to cut a check, but they could do it in a way that we could actually train leaders, train our young talents to become social corporate leaders, so we have more people down the road doing it. Everything in life like a muscle. More you show as a leader that you're doing it, easier will be for everyone else to do it again. And we do become what we celebrate. When we celebrate leaders and CEOs, in life, in community, in politics, we do become what we celebrate. If we celebrate CEOs that do things for the community, that focuses more on bottom line, that include purpose and people, and we celebrate them, hopefully everyone else would want to be celebrated like that, so they'll do it again. And this is where we'll have, and we'll continue our leadership in Canada. Quite honestly, Canada and Canadian has a great opportunity in a world that badly needs it. We could lead the world how to be a better CEO and better business leaders.
And I think you've touched on this already, that it helps your bottom line as well. I think use the example of when you led the Canada Strong initiative, fundraising for the families of the people who died in the Iran crash. Aside from being a fine thing to do, that helped your business, yes? Tell me the story of that.
Absolutely, it helps your business, it helps the morale in your business, and it helps your bottom line, dollar-wise. So we saw an increase in sales immediately the first 2 weeks of launching the campaign. And we saw that remained through the whole campaign. And beyond that, we see people more talking about it with our team members, the staff, and that gives the staff another reason why they're part of the company, right? But numbers-wise, for the CEOs that hopefully will be listening to this, it has affected our bottom line. We had an increase in sales immediate, increase in hit on social media and awareness about the group and the company. And a lot of more people start reaching out to us, even through social media and emails, and saying, how can we be part of this? And some of them said, how can we be part of Paramount, right? So it brings attention to a better, responsible, more corporate, responsibility from a company that was built by someone that came here poor. And that sends a very strong message to the people who are starting, regardless if you were born here or you are here by a choice, that in this place, everything is possible and this country is a place of hope. But when you do the right thing, it could turn to the profitable thing. It's not only the right thing because it's good and it's social media, it's the profitable thing to do. And today, it's so costly to change talents. I keep going back to people. If CEO realize how important their people are to them and to the success of their company, the only way to maintain people is getting them involved in something bigger than ourselves. And it's nothing bigger than ourselves than the homeless and the autistic children and the people that they're vulnerable that needs us the most. This is what's bigger than all of us together. And bottom line, this country is bigger than all of us. And we need to be those people. CEOs and private sector could be faster, more innovative than politicians and the government. And it's only on us to do that. Think outside the box of our company. And I think we can bring a greater change, again, one more time, in the world that badly needs it at this time.
And this all goes back to the lessons you learned as a boy with that little box at the door.
Absolutely. A lesson that my mom always said, the older people, I always say, please be proud of who you are and never forget where you came from. I'll never forget that I was that hungry guy living in a basement apartment. And I'll always appreciate that. So I can feel that this success is temporary for me to give it back to this community, to this beautiful country that gave it to me. Never, ever not be proud where you came from. I am who I am today. It's a combination of what I learned in Lebanon, what I studied in Italy, and what I learned in execution where people helped me and showed me how to help others in Canada. That's who I am. And I want all people never hide who you are. Don't change your name to a shorter name so you can fit in and become more Canadian. It is the Canadian thing to do, to accept people as they are, respect and celebrate their culture. That's what we do in Canada. We celebrate people.
Great to talk to you, Mr. Fakih.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Mohamad Fakih, the founder and CEO of Paramount Foods. And that's the Social Purpose Exchange. This program also exists as a podcast, and I invite you to check it out wherever you get your podcasts. My name's Sean Mallon. See you next time.